Right now, you're seeing brands that are both looking at advertising the AI technology itself. Think of like an open AI, Meta, right, with the Oakley glasses. And
Right.
then you have ones that are actually using AI for the first time to create the ads. So Svedka, one of the alcohol brands, used it to create its Fembot, and it actually used AI in the creation of the ad. So you're going to see a bit of both in the way of both the creative itself and building that, but then also in the actual technology being advertised.
And today we are so happy to have with us the editor-in-chief of Advertising Age, Jeanine Poggi. Hello, Jeanine. Welcome to our show.
Hi,
Hey,
Jeanine.
Barbara. Hey, Americus. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Welcome.
So, as editor-in-chief, probably the leading publication on advertising, I assume that given this weekend activity, that you've been keeping busy. Is that true?
You would assume correct. Yeah. Our whole newsroom is
Wow.
really staying on the pulse of every commercial coming out,
Nice.
every trend, every celebrity that'll appear in an ad.
Oh,
So
interesting.
we're having some fun.
Interesting. So,
Oh,
Jeanine,
that
it's like the war room. I love it. This is
Oh,
good
it
stuff.
is. It's a war. It's a war room over a course of a month.
Gotcha.
So before you tell us about this year, which I definitely want to hear, I just want to make sure I'm right about this hypothesis. So when you do a Super Bowl ad, you're not just paying for the 15, 30 seconds that you get on the Super Bowl. You are paying for all the hype that goes in before. And I know some of the ads are showing us their ad. Like I've already watched some of the ads, and some of them aren't. Like we had someone on a couple weeks ago or last week that just teased it and won't show the real ad until the game. And then, of course, we've seen some academic research about what the afterlife is of these Super Bowl ads. So it's not just the hype, but also the idea that you associate some of these products with games. And so whenever there's a big game, it gets reinforced, even if they don't necessarily. So can you talk a little bit about about the life cycle of these advertisements, more than just the 15 or 30 seconds, which they pay obscene amounts of money for?
Yeah, and aside from paying for like the actual media time, you're also paying for the director, the celebrities that are in those
Right.
ads, and
Right.
all of that. Like
Ooh.
that's hefty cost depending upon who's starring in your ad. I mean, you have George Clooney in an ad, this year. You know that comes with a price tag, right? But
Yes.
yes, you're absolutely right. The life cycle of these is a long one, especially when you consider social media. All the brands are considering the cost. They're not looking for like one and done. And it's been a while now that they'll either put out teasers, sort of like hyping up early interest in the ads, going on social, having their celebrities do little tweets and TikToks and going on, YouTube to talk about these ads before they release any of the creative. And then, of course, the ads will run in other properties, post Super Bowl. They'll live online post Super Bowl. So there is a lot that goes into this.
That's incredible.
Okay, so now we can't wait. I mean, we're supposed to like kind of build up to this, but I'm really excited to hear what's been going on in the war room. Like, what are
Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
big trends?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really, really interesting year. As you can imagine, given like just the climate here in the world, like there is a lot of consideration that goes
Interesting.
into striking the right tone for the ads and a lot of thinking around, the strategy of, are we going to go funny? Are we going to go serious?
Yeah.
Are we going to bring back nostalgia, which is a fan favorite? So a lot of what we're seeing is sort of this like absurdist humor, which is playing
Wow.
upon
Wow.
the interests of Gen Z, who tend to like sort of the more obscure and odd creative. So we're seeing, things like this is a funny teaser, Manscaped, which is its first time as a Super Bowl advertiser. They have a teaser out that sort of a little gross, shows hair trimmings
Oh,
on
dear.
the floor of a shower that like sprouts eyes.
Oh,
More to
dear.
come on like what that turns into.
Oh, wow.
But you have, Pringles, which said that it is planning on bringing unhinged humor to its Super Bowl ad. The ad stars Sabrina Carpenter. You have
That's
some,
one of the ones
you
I
know,
watched.
Yeah.
yeah. You
Yeah.
have some humor with like Ben Stiller
Yep.
and Benson Boone for Instacart doing a like sort of hairband spoof which apparently seems to be a little bit of a theme this year.
Interesting.
Keegan-Michael Key and Danny McBride also do a spoof for State Farm, singing halfway there with, the full-on mullets and the whole thing. So there's just some like really funny out there humor, which makes sense for the time that we're in, as
Mm,
you just sort of think about brands like wanting to play it as safe as possible, not want to be controversial in any sort of way.
mm.
So I expect we'll see, as more ads get released, more leaning into some of that kind of humor.
So that's interesting. I mean, in some sense, Janine, it's like I mean, these terms you just used kind of just blew my mind, actually. Unhinged, absurdist humor. That was the term. You said it. I didn't say it. That's what
I
you
did
said.
say it.
And I was like,
Go on TikTok, right? And
yes.
just look at what everyone's watching
Wow.
and take that and sort of like apply it to Super Bowl.
Interesting. Super interesting. I want to step back really quickly, Janine,
Yeah.
and jump in on this as well, Barbara, because Barbara's always telling us that the context, and Barbara always reminds us that there are very, 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 because of the advent of streaming, there are very, very few things that happen where a bunch of people come watch at the same time. And so how is that potentially raising the stakes with respect to
Let me just add to that because you were caught on the unhinged, and I was caught on her saying focusing for Gen Z because, like, to your point, this is a massive audience, and the idea of focusing on Gen Z, it could like backfire for some
Well,
segments.
yeah, and I think that it's an interesting point, and you're absolutely right. It's one of the few places that still garners 100 million plus audience live watching something at the same time, which is incredibly rare, if not like non-existent, these days. What I will say is, yes, I think we're seeing like more opportunities and ways that brands are trying to connect with Gen Z, such as bringing in like Mr. Beast to help create an ad for
oh,
Salesforce, or leaning on some
oh,
creators. But in the
interesting.
same breath, you're not really seeing those things stand on their own. They're always weaved in with
Mm.
tie into a movie of a sense of nostalgia. Xfinity is leaning on Jurassic Park. You're
Oh,
leaning in, like I said, to like
ah,
hair bands and songs, Sweet Caroline, a spoof on Sweet Caroline for
yes.
Hellman's. So it may have some of that absurdist humor, but with elements that feel very nostalgic to some older
Yeah.
audiences,
That's interesting.
and some of more of the core demographic that you would think of.
Mm.
So you're not seeing these things like live on their own. They definitely are layered in with celebrities that, the traditional audience will know.
Interesting. I mean, I think this is an interesting approach, Barbara and Janine, because one of the things that I observed, my daughter, she is big time. She pulled me into the Stranger Things universe. Okay, I got pulled in, and I fell in love with this thing. Obviously, because I grew up in the '80s. But it's a really interesting when you see these examples of kind of my generation, her generation, and they love it. Like we love the same thing suddenly, which is kind of weird. But it is that for me, it's nostalgia. For her, it's like, well, that's just really cool. I mean, are we seeing some sorts of, ads this year that are trying to kind of bridge the gap, let's say, between generations and like using nostalgia as the mechanism to kind of create that gravity? Or what are there some examples that stand out to you?
Absolutely. I think even just the couple that like I was talking about like some of this unhinged humor, they're not in a vacuum. So like I said, like, the Ben Stiller and Benson Boone, like really funny, a little bit weird. Like I'm not sure I fully get it, but it does like allude back to sort of like those hair bands. So there are, you have Sabrina Carpenter in an ad alongside more traditional celebrities. So they are doing it in a way that's really smart, and that it's not like just limited to those creators.
So
That's
let's talk
interesting.
about some of these big trends you were talking about. Everybody's talking about AI. So tell us how AI is playing out in the Super Bowl.
Oh man, you cannot escape AI this year. I'm sure that is, true of almost everything in this world right now, right? So right now, you're seeing brands that are both looking at advertising the AI technology itself. Think of like an open AI, Meta, right, with the Oakley glasses. And
Right.
then you have ones that are actually using AI for the first time to create the ad. So Svedka, one of the alcohol brands, used it to create its Fembot, and it actually used AI in the creation of the ad. So you're going to see a bit of both in the way of both the creative itself and building that, but then also in the actual technology being advertised.
So I know Coca-Cola had been doing something with AI generated ads, but I don't know that Coca-Cola is advertising on the Super Bowl this year, are they?
Mm.
They don't
Yeah.
have an ad in the Super
Yeah.
Bowl, and this is really the actual use of AI to create the ad has been so like limited. It's really been more on the back end. This is the first time in the Super Bowl we're actually seeing an ad being created.
Very interesting. But isn't it true though that Pepsi is on the attack? And I don't know
Yeah,
where
yeah, with
this
the
could be like
challenge
false. This
again. Yes.
could not be real. I don't know because who knows what's real? Because I am on TikTok, checking, trying to understand so I can stay in the cultural zeitgeist. But I saw this polar bear, like sort of. Can you explain this? Are they? I mean, this is what are the cola wars back? Is that where we are?
Yeah, they're using their polar bears. They're bringing back the polar bears that was known as a Coke icon, right? And they are bringing it in their ads. So it's really interesting to see that play on an icon that has been so well known for Coke that Pepsi is using. It'll be interesting to see because it's also an older reference to see which generations sort of get it, right? To our point of thinking about like Gen Z, millennials, boomers, and like what generations get these. Will they get the reference to the polar bears? It's been a while since they've really been used in that capacity. So that will be interesting to tell.
Given it's a broad audience, as we've been discussing, and one of the huge trends in marketing is healthcare, wellness, pharma, all of these new drugs, it is a good opportunity for some of these companies to be on the Super Bowl. And we'd seen this in the past. Like I know a couple years ago, Dexcom, which is a glucose monitor, had its first healthcare ad, et cetera. So I know that this has been a trend, but I would imagine with the GLP-1s that that's another opportunity. And how do these kind of companies come on the Super Bowl? Are they funny? I mean, they're not really funny topics.
So I find this trend really interesting because if you think back historically to Super Bowl ads, food, junk food, right? Sodas, pizza, like these are the items like we've associated with Super Bowl for so long.
Doritos,
now
avocado.
to see, right? Like now to see this influx in like healthcare companies, and it speaks to this wellness culture, right? That has really emerged over the last couple of years. You're absolutely right, Barbara, with the GLP-1s. That's a huge, huge part of this. We are seeing hims and hers with an ad democratizing healthcare and preventative medicine. Novartis is doing a spot on prostate cancer screening.
Oh, that's a Super Bowl topic.
Yeah, really. And they do.
Wait a minute. Hold it. I mean, come on. Listen, Barbara, I just want to watch the game. I don't need medical anxiety in the middle of the punch.
Well, so it's interesting. Like that's an interesting take on it, right? Because is this the forum for these types of conversations? But if you think about, we just talked about 100 million people watching the Super Bowl and, to the point of like hims and hers of democratizing healthcare, like what better place to reach people about health, and, diabetes testing is another one that comes up and navigating high blood pressure. And then there'll definitely be like Serena Williams is in the Row campaign during the Super Bowl. So GLP-1, I think we'll see plenty of those during the game as well.
But the tone of the GLP-1s, going back to Barbara's point, is not going to be absurdist, unhinged humor.
It's very close to them. I will say the prostate,
you don't need them yet.
The prostate cancer one does have some humor in it and plays to some humor, but they are very much talking about the benefits of doing these things. Some of them have a lightness to them to not make it very serious, which I think is smart in this kind of environment. But the hims and hers ones, for example, is like very straight and serious about like democratizing healthcare and how historically people of wealth like had better access to medical care. So they definitely take a more serious approach.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Is Jesus back?
Jesus is back. We haven't seen the ad yet, but Jesus is back in the rebrand of He Gets Us. We'll see what they bring to the game. But Jesus has been in it for the last couple of years.
Jesus is back in. Wow. I thought you were asking a philosophical question.
No,
this is like literally.
No,
Jesus is back.
I'm interested in Jesus's advertising campaign.
It's always one that stirs up some conversation.
Yeah, but here's something that's super interesting. I know, and our show, Jeanine, is completely apolitical. But, there's a lot of things going on right now. There's a lot of protesting happening. Is everything chilled to the extent that no one is willing to come out and come into the ads and make any kind of statements about any of the stuff that's going on? Is this like the
Oh.
insular, like, we just won our football game. Let's not input any well, except for Jesus. Jesus gets a pass because Jesus is Jesus. But, I mean, are we seeing anyone who's willing to, do a Bad Bunny and come out and make a
No, there's
statement or anything
there's
like that?
very little, and that's I mean, back to the idea of humor really being, like,
Yeah.
the driving force and theme in these ads, it's a safe place to be in.
Yeah.
No, we are not seeing, many at least right now, we have not seen any that take any sort of major political or
Yeah.
social stance. There are a
Yeah.
couple that are a little bit more straight and serious. Budweiser has its Clydesdale back.
Oh,
This time, if you
okay.
remember Puppy Love back some
Yeah.
time now,
Yeah.
of the Clydesdale and the puppy. This time, it's a Clydesdale and a bird of some kind in the beginning that were not
Okay.
Philippine, a baby bird.
Okay.
And then as the storyline
Wow.
progresses, we actually see it is an eagle. So
Oh.
it's supposed to lean into the 250th
Ah.
anniversary of the country, and playing on that a bit.
Another thing you were talking about is celebrities. And one of the things that I've noted, and this I haven't seen people talk about necessarily, I've just anecdotally noticed that there's a lot more sports celebrities involved also. And those sports celebrities kind of play a different role. I mean, a lot of times they're football players or the Mannings or the Kelseys. I don't know if Travis is in any of these ads, but or Jason. But it is kind of interesting to just think in general about celebrities. And I guess um, the sports celebrities make a lot of sense. Some of the other celebrities are just attention. Or what's your observation about what the celebrity advertising looks
Yeah,
like?
that has definitely been a trend over the last couple of years, I would say. If you think about sports stars as more than just celebrities and really think about them too in their own right as like an influencer,
Mhm.
and you like look at like how sports culture has really, moved onto TikTok and other social platforms, I think there is a different audience beyond just the sport itself, right? For some of these celebrities, knowing their backstory and sort of how they got there. It's interesting too because we're also at a time where the Olympics are
Right.
starting, right? Right in the same time of the Super Bowl. We have the World Cup coming up in
Right.
the
Right.
summer.
Yeah.
So it's a moment in time where sports, and if you think about reach and audience and where audiences are in like
Yep.
live entertainment,
Yep.
it's sports, right? Whether it's, women's sports that are having a bigger moment. Um, there's just a lot of opportunity there for
Yeah.
brands to lean in and
Interesting.
connect with sports stars in a different way.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Here's a question, Barbara, and Janine, because one of the things we always think about, Janine, is sort of the world is an interaction of sorts, right? Everything interacts with each other. So I'm wondering, is there? I guess you can't plan with other things, but I'm wondering, like, the combination of humor plus serious. Is there weird things that could? Well, two things. One is there's weird things that could happen, right? So maybe the Manscaped thing happens and it's like kind of gross, and like then the prostate cancer thing, so, I don't know. That's weird,
It absolutely could.
and I just wonder, do they think about this? It's like, wait a minute, let me get a list of everything that's going to be out there, and let me at least understand how I can potentially
Yeah,
fit
and
in
the
that
ordering of the ads, of course, like when they
ordering.
occur.
Yeah, the exact. That's
Yeah,
exactly what
but
I'm talking
think
about.
about it.
Yeah,
These decisions are being made of just like at the same time the Super Bowl ends this year. Like they'll start thinking about
yeah,
what next year looks like. A lot of these decisions are made so far in advance that that's like one of the issues, right? It's
yeah,
so hard to plan for where we are as a country, right? The
yeah.
tone, the tonality, and that far in advance.
Right.
It's hard to plan for what others might lean into. It's hard to plan for necessarily like major cultural moments, which is why, back to the beginning of this conversation where we were talking about like extending the life of an ad, both before and after, and why social plays such an
Yeah,
important part,
yeah,
because there's ways for brands, and they do this all the time now, to be on social,
yeah.
layering in additional like insights and commentary around their campaigns
Yes.
that are more real time, right?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
react to what is happening in the moment as
Interesting.
their ad is being,
Well, you
Yeah.
mentioned in real time. I remember one of the things that Duolingo did that was so cool is they had like a 2-second commercial,
Yeah.
but right after they ran their commercial,
Yep.
they did a social media outpouring to their whole audience and really, really leverage the, 2 seconds they
That
paid
2
for in the
seconds.
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So there's one thing before and after, then there's
Yeah.
also this 3rd screen that
Yeah.
they may be connecting to. How
That's
much
right.
of that are we seeing?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can even think about brands doing local ads as the same sort of effect, like not paying the full price for
Yeah.
a national 30, 60-second spot, being in some key markets, but then layering in
Yeah.
with social activations. We see that a lot, extending, putting those spots on social so it reaches a broader audience,
Yeah.
and also like focusing on some key markets. It's another way that
Interesting.
brands sort of do something similar to that.
That's interesting. I also wonder, Janine and Barbara, the idea of it's a big bet in some senses, right? Because you could get like a super boring game. And then with attention spans being so low, people check out, right? Or you could get like this amazing battle into overtime and it's super close and everybody's at the edge of their seat. So they're all, to Barbara's point, there's like all these unknown factors that you're managing. And I think you're hedging the bet when you have other things pre and post that can sort of smooth out the external shocks that could happen that are uncontrollables that exist, let's say, in the context of the game. Do you agree with that characterization, Janine?
Oh, yeah, and it's why, oftentimes there is more demand for that A slot, the first couple of spots in the first commercial break, and they
Right.
often, garner more premium pricing
Yeah.
as a result.
Yep. Yep.
There is all of that, but there could be just as much interest and planning around, plans in place. If a game goes into overtime, there's a couple of brands that know they might buy, time in overtime, or brands that don't even appear in the game, maybe appear in pregame, but have plans if a game goes
Oh,
into
interesting.
overtime to
Oh,
buy those
right.
slots. So there are various ways that already sort of media planners are pre-planning to sort of make the most out of those opportunities.
The other thing that we've seen historically with the Super Bowl is whichever network is airing it uses it as a springboard for some of its programming. And I don't even know which network is airing it this year.
It's NBC, so
Oh,
NBC will have it.
Oh.
It will stream on Peacock, which is another
Oh.
completely different opportunity of like the streaming opportunity and buying ads and streaming versus national TV. And the Olympics are also airing on NBC.
Wow.
So it's a nice, sort of springboard of like connecting that all together.
yeah, I think that's been very lucrative for the networks in the past, a big thing that they could possibly get. And the last thing, well, not the last, we could talk forever on this, but one of the things I did want to talk about, you kind of implied it, but I kind of want to make it more salient, is we talk about some of the new brands that are coming on, but then there's also the traditional, beer, automobiles, financial services. What's the story with all of them?
Yeah, so for autos in particular, I think, for a while the auto category has often been looked to as like the one of the bigger one, that between that and like a Bud Light and all of those. But it's this year poised so far for a down year in automakers. Right now we only know of 2 brands, Toyota and Cadillac, that are confirmed to
Huh.
run ads in the game.
Interesting.
I think for the auto brands in particular, they're really kind of just trying to seek more value with their media buys. We're seeing that, like, yes, of course, so many people are watching the game, but only a fraction of
Interesting.
those people they find typically are actually in the market for a car.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, what they're really looking to do is
Yep.
figure out better ways to
This would
more
be interesting.
directly reach
Yeah.
the consumers who are actually in the market to buy a car, right? And because the
Yeah.
rest of those are sort of wasted media.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're seeing for brands like automakers and why we've seen a pullback in recent years. And, there are other factors, bigger economic factors at play as well.
Interesting. Yeah.
Some of
That's
these.
interesting. You know what, Barbara, when you said that, this is triggering my mind again. And again, I'm not trying to be political, so I don't want to be political. I want to be the opposite of political. I want to pull back from all the politics. I want to be apolitical, like Barbara always says. Americus, be apolitical. Yes, but I'm wondering. So Bad Bunny is doing the
Yeah,
Super
I
Bowl
was gonna
halftime.
ask you that too.
Okay.
I mean, it's a
Have they put the
controversial.
contract on him and
No.
say, "Listen, bro, like,
Yeah.
don't go out there. Listen, we're trying to, because
Yeah,
this could
yeah,
like it could go pretty sideways." And
You know,
he's
yeah.
yeah. What
you
if
have to imagine when you make a decision like that, what could happen, right? And what the backlash or the response could be. And I think when you make that decision, you're also making the decision that we want to reach a different audience, and
Yeah.
we know this is the way to do it.
Well, Jeanine, it's been wonderful talking to you. We're all looking forward to the Super Bowl. Maybe we'll have you on after and you can tell us like what happened after,
Would love to. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, Jeanine Poggi, the editor-in-chief of Advertising Age, thank you so much for joining us today. And where can listeners go to see all the analysis you guys do on the game?
Yeah, I mean, adage.com will have our ad review after the game, which pretty much is our take on every ad that ran nationally during the Super Bowl. And then we will be on LinkedIn, Instagram, all social platforms during the game, live streaming, having conversations, talking about the brands, talking with the brands in some cases, in some fun moments. So stay tuned and tune in.
That's super interesting too. Sorry, Barbara, really quickly, because that's actually because being a part of this from a journalistic point of view, Barbara, this is also like
Yeah.
elevating and continuing the amplification of these things. So the brands are happy. They're like, oh my God, Janine's on LinkedIn talking about our manscape, or whatever. So,
Yes, they are.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
great.
Great.
Well, that's all we have time for today. We'd like to thank our producers, Deanne Simpkins and Marissa Renna. Thank you all for listening today. We'll be back next week. Till then, this has been Marketing Matters on the Wharton Podcast Network. I'm Barbara Kahn, here with Americus Read.